Hello, everybody. This is Elena Garrett with Keller Williams Central, and I am a realtor in the Dallas-Fort Worth area of Texas. Today, this is another episode of Podcast with Elena, and today I'm introducing what I expect to be part one of a multi-series, a multi-part series of videos that I'm planning to put together in the next couple of weeks. This is January 2021, so I'm starting the new year. We survived 2020. Thanks God. I still can't believe we survived 2020. But I'm hoping that this video will help those of you who are online searching for a house online. And very often, you and I meet on Facebook or some other space where you see my posts of my ads of houses for sale and we start to chit chat. So this is probably how you came to find this video. So if you are one of the people who are online looking for a house to buy, this video might be for you and it might help you to secure your home ownership faster and easier than you would otherwise be able to. So let's begin. Let's begin. So the reasons for this video are many of you approached me on my Facebook space in the marketplace, for example, and you asked me, is this house available? And I said, yes, surely it is. And you said, well, can I go see it? And that was the beginning of our conversation. And I asked you, do you have the financing arranged for the house? So over the period of many, many months of talking to people on Facebook who are trying to go see the houses that I posted, I found out that out of, let's just say 100% of everybody who approached me, 80% people, when I asked them, do you already have the financing secured? They said no, and they were not even sure how to go about doing it. About 15% of those people said yes, I already have the financing secured, which was a big applause for them. And a few of them said, I'm planning to have a cash purchase. So we're not worried about those 5% have a cash purchase or about 15% who have the financing secured. For those of you who do not have financing secured, this is a video that I'm hoping with my entire heart will help you not to stumble through the process, but go through it in an organized and efficient way. Just to let you know, if there are those of you who are looking for seller financing or rent to own, when I post an ad for seller financing, rent to own, buy with no credit, when people approach me and I ask them, do you know how the process works? Only 1 in about 30 respondents tell me that yes, they know how the process works. And when I ask them, do you know why this is the best choice for you? Many of them said that they're not sure, but they think that this would be better because they have, let's just say, a credit issue. So most 99.9% of respondents to my ads for rent to own or seller financing actually do not know how the process works. Therefore, they probably have not a very good idea of whether or not that type of financing actually fits them. So reasons for this video, again, a lot of people start by searching an online marketplace of some kind. It could be Facebook Marketplace, could be Zillow or homes.com. But they're in some kind of a virtual space looking at houses. And they look at the houses and they find houses that they particularly feel would fit their situation. And they select 1 or 2 houses and then they reach out to people who posted these houses. And then they ask to go see the house. In my opinion, that is a very inefficient way because they don't know how they're going to buy the house when they're going to see. But by the time that they select the houses, they don't have a very good logical way of transitioning from seeing it to making an offer on that house the next day. In my opinion, it is very inefficient to select the house first and then to find out how to buy it later. So if that's inefficient, what is a more efficient process? Well, I am a realtor and I'm helping people to find homes. So in my opinion and from my experience, first of all, you need to find out how you're going to buy the house, through which mechanism, through which loan process. Once you know that, you will know multiple requirements that are that you have to meet in order to buy that house, the down payment, the loan terms, the ability to utilize it with lower credit or without any credit at all. Only after you look through those options and know how much it will be costing out of pocket versus monthly, only then you can go to the online marketplace and say, this is how much I have to spend in cash. This is how much I can spend per month. Find me something that would fit those parameters. And on the day and you select the houses that fit those parameters. In my opinion, it will be much more efficient. So I did come up for those of clients of mine who approached me and asked them to help them to find out how they can qualify for a house. I generated a plan, a 7-step plan that I'm sharing today with you that hopefully will help you the same way as it helped them. So first of all, I wanted to make sure that my clients and that you start by understanding the entire process, because many of people who never bought a house online, they're very focused on a very small portion of the process, which is scrolling through pictures of houses in the online marketplace. Even though it is the most fun part, it is not necessarily the entire process. So understanding the entire process and being prepared for that process in advance, because when people tell me that they need to buy the house in the next 7 days, I can't help but laugh, because there is no house that they can buy in the next 7 days. The process just doesn't work that way, and they get very surprised when they hear that. They expect that, oh, my rent is coming up for renewal in 2 weeks, so I need to get out of this place and get into my own house that I'll buy in less than 2 weeks. Obviously, they saw that clicking on a picture and clicking buy would probably end up with buying them a house, just like they would buy a dress um, on eBay. But that's not how the process works. So understanding the whole process will allow you to appreciate the length of time it will take you to complete it, and also the preparation that you will need to take to be able to accomplish all steps in the process. Once you understand the process, the next will be to get help with the strategy, because buying a house is not the same as clicking on a picture and say, I want to buy that house. Buying a house is more or less a strategic game that begins with understanding the strategy to get the loan, then understanding the strategy with how to win the house that you want, and then understanding the strategy of how to close successfully on a house that you want. So there are several strategic pieces that need to be arranged that most people who never bought a house before, they have no clue on what they need to be on the lookout for. So getting help with the strategy is something that you probably shouldn't be trying to accomplish by yourself, but you should be talking to somebody who are experienced in this field. Once you established your strategy, you need to decide on your main thing. And I'm going to go through this whole process with you and explain it in more detail. Once you decide on that, my recommendation is to try to apply for qualified and non-qualified mortgages first. So you either apply for qualified or apply for non-qualified, but either way, you're going to try to apply for one of those loans. And the reason you're trying to apply for them is because they will give you almost like a medical test, like a blood draw. You are going to get a full battery of results that will help you to decide whether to go to the next step and try creative financing, or if one of those QM or non-QM mortgages are going to be sufficient for you. If you have to go to creative financing step, I'm there to help you to select the type of creative financing that would fit your needs. Once you select either QM, non-QM, or creative financing, you're going to secure, you'll need to go through a small process that you will have to really work on to get through the program approval, because a lot of people think that if they have low credit, then basically they're going to apply for rent to own, and they can just say that, hey, I wanted that house, the rent to own, and they're handed the key the next day. That's not how it works. You still have to go through an approval. And every approval is like a program. You start at one step, you do this, you do this, you do this, because in the end, you're still working, no matter whether it's a governmental loan or a creative financing with private loan. You're still working with somebody who's lending you money. And as long as the process of lending money in exchange for a documenting your home ownership is happening, this process is going to be regulated by a whole bunch of laws, even with creative financing, with rent to own, and with seller financing. There's still laws, both federal and state laws, that every lender will have to follow. Therefore, you're still going to go through some steps that are pretty regulated. And I'm going to help you to secure the program approval, no matter what program you decide to use. Once you secure the program approval, then the fun part begins. Once we know your loan limit and your monthly payment limit and your down payment and your cash to close, now we can go, and using that information, we can find the houses that fit each one of those parameters. So we know that when we go see the house in person, you can sign the paperwork that very day, and you can go ahead and start the purchase process. So whatever you decide to do, whether you decide to use my system, or if you decide to do it on your own, or to use somebody else's system, I truly wish you success. I hate to see any one of you guys renting. Please try to follow a strategy whenever you're attempting such a big endeavor as buying a house. So in case you decide to stick through my program, let's go ahead and go to the next step. So again, whenever you're going to accomplish a very big and complex and long process, such as buying a house, understanding the entirety of your task is important, so you can break it into smaller steps, and you can understand how those steps are connected, and what sequence of events would make the process go faster, or which one of them would slow it down. When a new homeowner, or not a new homeowner, when a person who never owned before, who is probably a renter at this moment, when they try to find a way to buy a house and they go online, they can sometimes get confused by all kind of ads that seem to be targeting them, and as far as they're concerned, but they cannot really tell for a fact which of those ads they should be clicking on. They get a variety of offers that they pursue. Let's just say, oh, I see an offer for a rental, let me pursue that. I see an offer for 0% down payment, let me pursue that. In the end, they almost like if they got into a taxi and the taxi driver asked them, where do you want to go? And they said, I want to go to this address. Oh, you know what? Once we got there, you know what? Let me go to the next address. And once we got there, or halfway there, you know what? Changed my mind again. I need to go that way, etc., etc. So while you are driving and it looks like you're doing something, in reality, you're not getting any closer to your ultimate goal. Why? Because you don't know what your ultimate goal is. You only know that you want to buy a house. But buying a house is a culmination of multiple steps. And if you don't know which steps to take next, then you're just kind of doing it, running in circles, not necessarily getting any closer to the completion of your dreams. Therefore, what my hope is that I can give you a better plan. So having a plan, in my opinion, is more important than having savings or good credit score. In fact, you can have a good savings and good credit score and still not buy a house because you don't know how to complete the steps. On the opposite, if you don't have good savings and don't have a good credit score, you can complete the process of buying a house if you just follow the plan and start working toward it without being distracted by constantly running after different opportunities. So what would be step two? Well, step two would be, so we know that you have a dream. You want to have a house. How you're going to achieve that dream is going to call strategy. So how are you going to achieve the dream is not something that you can just, although it is possible if you have an 800 credit score or 720 credit score, it is quite possible that you can just pick up the phone and get on the phone with Lending Tree or some other place, and then immediately be issued a loan, and then immediately be presented with a list of houses to you. If you're with me on this video, that's probably not your situation, and your situation is a little bit more challenging. So for you, you would need to come up with a strategy, because selecting a strategy can either ultimately result in success or failure. And if you do succeed in buying a house, it can truly be a difference between paying $1,500 versus $2,000 per month, having a no down payment versus having a 20% down payment, being able to get a balloon, to get a fixed mortgage versus a balloon mortgage. Those are very strange terms for you, but they will, so selecting a strategy will determine the ultimate monthly burden that you're going to have once you buy the house. So choose the strategy wisely and understand the consequences of the strategy that you choose. For that reason, I do recommend that you get help with selecting your strategy. I am very happy to help anybody who needs my help choose strategy that they could use to evaluate their options for buying a house. I did create a form called, and you can go to elenagarrett.com/buy-step-2 to fill out a quick questionnaire. So I put together a quick questionnaire that will allow me to quickly look at your current financial situation and at your aspirations, what you're actually trying to buy, and find a way how your current financial situation can fit your inspirations in such a way that you actually can accomplish it in the shortest amount of time. So if you need my help with the strategy, I'm more than happy. My entire help for you is free. If you decide to go with me, through me, to buy a house and let me be your agent during the process of the house, my advice is free to you from the beginning to end, because the buyers don't pay for the agent's assistance. If you look at this and you use my advice and you go with some other agent, that's perfectly all right with me too. I just want you to be successful. So either fill out the information online, or if you don't feel comfortable leaving in your information online, then just chat with me online, and I'm going to post my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram accounts here, so you can chat with me online, or you can pick up a cell phone and call me or text me on your cell phone, and my contact information will be provided at the end. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get your information, internalize it, and then give you a very straight up feedback that will be not sugar coated. It will be very to the point and tell you exactly how I think you will be able to get to your dream. After you either contact me through my web form or chat with me in some other way of form, after I tell you what I think the best strategy for you would be, you would need to go ahead and decide what is going to be your main plan. Is it going to be, so out of all the choices that I'm going to enumerate for you, you will almost like weigh different ways that you think, just based on your own heart feeling and on your own experience with your family and on your own ability to estimate how you usually do things. Once I give you the choices for your strategy, you will probably pick the one that is closest to your heart for one reason or another. And that will be the one thing that we'll shoot for. So for example, you could say, I make a lot of money. I'm just going to have a large down payment, and I'm going to take the option that allows me to have a large down payment, and then I don't need to worry about my credit score. Or maybe you will know that a large down payment is not something that you'll be able to accumulate quickly, and we will focus on maybe fixing your credit score or going through a different strategy that will accommodate the lower down payment. So we're going to focus either on a down payment or credit score or some other items that we can pick and choose that we will call your strings. And then we'll figure out how to structure your strategy around your main strings. Discuss it once you pick a strategy. I recommend that you discuss it with your family and friends to get their feedback. Or after you get my feedback, discuss it with your family and friends. And then once you feel that in your heart you're not comfortable with proceeding forward, we are going to get started. So how we're going to get started? Even if during our consultation, I recommend that we will probably end up using a creative financing of some form. We will probably get started still by applying for either a qualified or non-qualified mortgage, and I'm not going to explain too much about it right now. I have a separate video on qualified, non-qualified mortgages and how those could be useful for people with challenging credit scores, for example. But in any event, what I will recommend to each one of you is that even if you plan to use a creative financing, in the end, applying for a qualified or applying for a non-qualified or qualified mortgage will help you to determine how appropriate our initial idea of using the creative financing would work in your situation, because neither you nor I have the entire depth of vision that the lenders have. And when the lenders look into your situation, they might find surprising ways in which they can approve you for a traditional mortgage, alleviating the need to look for any other sources of financing. So with that thought that you and I can only do so much, and then we need to get an opinion of a loan originator that will pinpoint everything that we are not seeing, just because you don't know everything that's in your credit profile. And I don't know that for sure either, because I don't pull your credit score. Once we get the feedback from a lender for your application on one of those types of mortgages, we won't really know whether our guesses were correct or not. Once we get that feedback, then we will have a more complete picture and a much more accurate prediction of whether or not we're moving in the right direction. If your application for qualified or non-qualified mortgages succeed, then you don't need to worry about anything else. We'll just go straight to the approval and straight to the purchase of the house. If your application does not succeed, then we go to step 5. Step 5 is trying to find a creative financing solution that would work for you. Right now, there are 2 primary types of creative financing. One of them is called rent to own, and one of them is seller financing or owner to owner financing. If we have to get to this step, I am one of the realtors in Dallas-Fort Worth area who actually specializes in those types of financing solutions. It is usually a last resort to go to the creative financing for a residential mortgage, but in case it is the only option to achieve your dream, I am pretty qualified to guide you through the process and find an appropriate investor or an appropriate program that would allow you to proceed further with your plan. Whether we're using qualified mortgage, non-qualified mortgage, rent to own, or seller financing, all of those programs will require an approval process. So a lot of buyers who are interested in non-traditional sources of fundings, for example, rent to own and seller financing, mistakenly assume that because those processes advertise as no credit, low credit solutions, it means that there will be no paperwork and no delays in approval. That is completely incorrect. In fact, those will take almost as long as the traditional mortgages to be approved, because quite honestly, with rent-to-owns and seller financing, the investor who is conducting those kind of programs is taking an even bigger risk than the traditional mortgage lender. The higher is the risk to the investor, the more investor is concerned with making sure that they did their due diligence. So rent-to-own and seller financing is low credit, but not necessarily instant processing. Whatever you choose, you will go through an approval process of one type or another. Once that approval process is completed, you will get 3 pieces of information that you will have to then use to qualify the houses. One of them will be your maximum approved loan amount. So knowing your maximum approved loan amount eliminates all the houses on the market that are outside of your loan limits. So your maximum approved loan amount, your cash to close that it will take for you to complete the transaction, the amount of money you'll need to bring to the table before you can get the keys, and then the monthly payment that will accompany your transaction. So once you get that information, or for rent to owns, you will slight modification for rent to own, you will know your maximum approved rent, maximum approved monthly rent, rather than monthly payments. But it's the same concept, monthly payments, monthly maximum rent. You will still get a limit on how much a lender of any kind is willing to let you pay for your maximum on your housing. You will also get, for those of you who are doing rent to own, you're also going to get the option fee, which is kind of like a cash to close, and the total cash to close needed, because besides option fee, there will be other fees involved. So for seller financing, we will also kind of dip into whether there will be a balloon or no balloon at the end, which could be an important issue for you once you actually get into the house. Regardless, one way or another, if you're working with me and you stick with the program, you will be approved for financing, whether it will happen in 5 days or 25 or 125. Once I give you the program, you will know the exact steps that you will need to take to get approved for financing, and the rest will be up to you on whether or not you're actually going to be disciplined and take those steps. Last, at the very last, once we're approved for the program, the moment of triumph has arrived. Once we get the information on your maximum loan amount and your cash to close, I will be able, or whoever is helping me, will be able to put together a list of houses that will fit your cash to close and your monthly, and your total, your maximum loan amount. Then you are going to get a list of houses to flip through and to do like this with your finger. And then once you like a few of them, you can go visit them, and then you will be able to make an offer go under a contract, and receive the keys to your own house. It is not a simple process. Everything that I described sounds very complicated, very tedious, very repelling, very scary. But if you allow me to guide you through the steps, buying a house is in some ways same as buying a car. Nobody was born knowing how to properly buy a car, but somebody had to show them, somebody had to tell them the ways. And buying a house is much more complicated than buying a car, but once you have the full guidance of somebody holding you through all the steps, you will not stray. You will eventually achieve your dream. So what's next? Now that we know that we have 7 steps, all of them sound like a lot of work, and they are. What is next? Well, if you're still serious about actually buying a house and getting out of a rental, I recommend that your next step is not to return to Zillow and not to return to Facebook Marketplace. You now know better. You now know that that's not the most efficient way because you're lacking key information that allow you to buy the house. In my opinion, your next step should be proceed to step 2 of my 7-step process and get help with evaluating the shortest path to the most economic ways for you to get into a house. There are many ways to get into a house, but not all of them make economic sense for you. So if you want to take a peek at my questionnaire, go to elenagarrett.com/buy-step2. Take a look at the questionnaire. If you don't feel comfortable filling out this questionnaire, then call me. My phone number is 469-371-4961. And just looking at the questions, answer your questions to me verbally, and I will immediately be able to tell you what your best strength is and how you can use that strength to attack your problem of not having a loan yet. With that said, my email address is egarrett@kw.com. My website is elenagarrett.com. There are plenty of information on my website for both creative financing and traditional financing for you to look at. If you like this video, click like. If you don't want to miss, so what I'm going to do is next few weeks, I'm going to devote to completing all steps and having a separate video for each of the steps. So it's probably going to end up about 7 to 8 parts to a full series. So if you don't want to miss any of those new videos coming up, please click like, or please click subscribe so you can get notified when a new video is posted. With that said, I wish you the success and I wish you luck in finding your own home sweet home. And until the next video, I'm signing off and I'm wishing you a great day.